Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the channel. If it is your first time, thank you for stopping by. It is actually the day after Christmas, so once again, Merry Christmas. Hope you guys had a great time off and spent time with your family and went to church. All right, let us dive right into the manifold and up pipe installation. So you can see here the truck behind me. I've clearly already started a little bit. So let's flip the camera around, show you where I'm at, and we'll keep rolling with it. Alright guys, so I've already taken off the front wheels on each side, also removed the inner fenders. Those are both pretty self-explanatory, so I didn't feel like those were worth showing. I also took off the hot and cold side intercooler piping for the pure reason that when they come down here, they get right in the way of the manifolds and up pipes themselves. So I did all of that last night so that I could get in here and I could put some WD-40 or whatever your favorite kind of penetrating oil is onto each one of the studs, each one of the bolts as well, to be able to hopefully make this job as easy as possible. So note to self here, guys, all of these parts, the manifolds, the up pipes, the down pipe, all of these were off about right at a year ago when I put the different turbo in. So most of these bolts probably won't be that bad to get out. But for yourselves, guys, especially on your down pipe, they can be a real bear. You know, I'll be totally honest. Unless you're doing a turbo swap, I probably wouldn't even barely put on a down pipe or change out your manifolds. Not because they're not worth it, but because it's so easy to break the studs off coming out of the turbo that essentially you're gonna have to end up pulling the turbo out anyway. You know what I mean, what I'm saying here. So just food for thought there, guys. Not saying that you shouldn't do that it's not exciting when you can put a down pipe in and that kind of stuff, but it will, you know, be very, very costly if you're not careful there. So anyways, just food for thought. So anyways, guys, we are to the point where we can start removing things. We're gonna focus back here first. First thing we're gonna do is take off this V-band clamp that clamps the front pipe to the down pipe. And then I'm not sure, but you can kind of see it run up the side there. There's the transmission dipstick tube. That might have to be pulled out too, so that when I get the down pipe bolts off of the turbo, the down pipe itself can come out pretty easily. You can see it in there. There is not much clearance there, right? So probably have to pull that out as well. It's not a big deal. Basically, it just pops right out of its fitting right there at the bottom. You can see it there. Not a big deal. So we'll pop that, pop the down pipe out, and after that we can start working on the manifolds themselves. All right, guys. So the V-band clamp is off. I'm going to pull off this dipstick tube right there. Pull that out. Literally, just have to pull up on it. You can see how much, because of the lack of clearance here, it's actually kind of going in there at an angle. It's not really leaking, but it is this kind of little film around it. Nothing's ever leaked out of it, but it's actually a little bit wet. So long-term goal, this needs a driver's side dipstick tube to get it out of the way, because there is just so much going on over here that it kind of creates a problem. So that's for another video for another time. But anyway, just pull straight up on that. That'll pop out. I already took the dipstick itself out of the tube. And once you got that out, you can just thread this out through the top of the motor. Pretty easy. Okay, now for the fun part. This is where everybody gets hung up on LB7s when you're trying to replace the down pipe. Basically, LB7s use a 6-bolt flange fitting here, or flange mate, instead of a nice V-band clamp to be able to actually take to clamp the down pipe to the turbo housing. Now these bolts get heated up to 1,000 degrees plus and then cooled immediately and then heated back up. Basically, they just go through thousands and thousands of heat cycles through their life, and they get really brittle. They expand and shrink, and make them very, very hard to get out. Now, this turbo is only a year old, so these have not been that bad. I'll be honest, I've already tested them all out. They all are actually popping out really, really easily, which is really nice. Otherwise, these are extremely, extremely hard to get out, and that's why I'm warning you not to do down pipes and that kind of stuff unless you're ready to put a new turbo in. Otherwise, it's just barely worth it for the effort and the amount of frustration you'll have when you end up breaking a stud off on the bottom. So you can get down to it. See, there's studs on the bottom and bolts on the top. Those studs will break real quickly. So they are 12 millimeter, 12-point sockets on the top and 14 millimeter sockets or wrenches on the bottom. Same thing on the up pipes themselves. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so down pipe is out. Like I said, so I was actually a little bit wrong there. So there's actually 4 bolts and 2 studs. You see the 3 bolts on the top, the one in the center, and the 2 studs. Like I say, in essence, it's not a hard thing to pull out, but like I say, if it's the first time it's coming out, those bolts can be extremely hard to get out. Those studs, those nuts on those studs can be extremely tight. Real easy to break the studs, but this one came out no harm, no foul, as well as the dipstick tube itself. So now that everything's opened up in there, we can go ahead and start to remove the up pipes. Once the up pipes are off, we'll be able to get the manifolds themselves out as well. Okay guys, basically the exact same procedure here for to get the up pipes, the top up pipes off. They use those same 12 millimeter sockets to get those off. There's 2 on the top on each side. There's 1 down the bottom, basically it's a triangular flange, but it's the exact same process. Let's pop those out quick, and then we'll be able to take them off from the manifolds on the bottom side and remove them. Okay, now with the upper up pipe manifold bolts out, you can take the 3 off of, sorry, not the manifold, but the up pipe. You can now take the 3 bolts out that connect it to the manifold itself. It's the same 12 millimeter 12-point sockets. Just pop those 3 out, and then the this on this passenger side one here should be able to just fall right out of here. Okay, all 3 bolts are out. So they should be able to just fall right off. And there it is. So now all we have left here on this side is to pull this manifold itself off. Okay, it's manifold time. I was able to get the up pipe off the other side pretty easily as well, so it worked out nicely. Okay, so the first thing I had to do was remove my EGT probe. You can see there was a tapped hole there for it on the OEM manifold. I was able to just pop that out and just let it dangle off to the side there for now. So now there are 8 bolts and studs that hold the manifold on. It's almost easier to show you on the new one. So there's a bank of 4 on this side and a bank of 4 on this side. So these I believe are 14 millimeter bolts. There's a couple studs on the bottom side that will be a little bit less fun to get to. You can see any of them in there or not, maybe not. Nah, not really, but there are 8 of them under there as well. Shouldn't be too bad. Let's say I've already kind of played with these a little bit, so they're not too bad. I lubed them up last night, so hopefully these won't be too bad. This side's a lot easier than the other side. I'll show you the other side. The other side's not that bad either. It's just because of all of the excess lines and everything else that are inside here. You know, that's what causes the problem. So, but as far as actually getting to them, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It'll be more of getting it out and then getting the new larger one back in its place. But we'll get to it. Shouldn't be that bad. Like I say, it's 14 millimeter bolts. Shouldn't be too big of a struggle. All right, guys, so the manifolds are out, and it's actually worked out really, really good, and I'll show you why. First of all, here this is. Looks like I've got actually an upper, actually looks like the lower valve cover gasket is actually leaking there a little bit. Looks like I need to pull those out and put in some 60% overs. What do you think? Anyway, I'll show you why. Basically, there are 6 bolts and 2 studs that hold the OEM manifold in place. And one thing I was worried about was getting these 2 studs out. However, looks like luck was on my side here. Those studs decided to come out versus letting that nut come free. Basically that nut, I'm sure, was rusted on there, whatever. And so it had enough force there to make the studs come out instead. So that's one less step for me. So this side here is actually ready to go. So I need to go ahead and do the other side. It might be a little bit more of a bear because of all the excess lines that were in there like I showed before. But we are moving right along here, guys. All right, so everything is out. We can do a comparison on everything. So these are passenger side up pipes. There's not really that big of a difference if you look down on them. There's just really not that much room, but as far as the bends for flow, it actually looks a lot better. If you look at the OEM one, it's almost a perfect 90-degree angle versus these ones that actually flows in. So what a lot of guys say is that hopefully it helps with your spool up a little bit just because of the flow itself. You're actually not getting more air, but it's being able to go through a lot quicker. One thing that's interesting on these, as we've now recently figured out, is that the hole is actually quite a bit smaller, so that's a little bit questionable. But we're gonna see what happens. But overall, you can see the size difference, you can see the flow pattern difference. This is, once again, it's 90-degree angles and it stays right along here where this kind of builds as it comes across. So we'll see how big of a difference they are, but we're ready to go ahead and re-put them back in. All right, guys, so we are ready to start the reassembly here. The first thing we have to do, so these are OEM gaskets that came with it. We see these little bent nubs that are on here. So if we were to put this down in its place, see those clearly are gonna be an issue. So basically it's recommended just take a tin snips and cut those off flush. That way the whole thing can just sandwich down. Other than that, it shouldn't be too bad. So we're gonna go ahead and do this quick Then we can start mounting it up. All right, one last comment before we put these in. We went ahead and put blue Loctite on the new studs. These are all included new hardware that came with it. But we went ahead and put blue Loctite on. I was gonna do red, but just in case these ever do come back apart, I'd really like them to be able to come back apart. So anyways, these are all Allen heads, hex heads, and we're using a 5/16 on them. So it should be pretty self-explanatory, but we're gonna go ahead and put this first one in. Okay, so we finally got the first one in here. It actually ended up being a little bit of a bear. Not because of the manifold itself. The whole manifold actually fit up perfectly. Gaskets fit fine. The issue is that when you're trying to get these studs in, excuse me, not studs, but bolts on the back side, it can be really, really hard to get in there. So what we end up having to do, unless you have a hex drive here that actually is 5/16, that actually has enough length, basically what we had to do is we had to take a regular manual wrench and cut it off and then stick it into a 5/16 socket and use that to be able to get on the back side of these. Otherwise it gets really, really hard, but other than that, it wasn't too bad. Just crank them down real tight. I'm sure the torque's back, but I don't know it, so I'm just gonna crank them down as tight as I can. Went ahead and did them from the center first and moved my way out, try to get good sealing, but we should be good, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to the up pipe. Okay, both manifolds are now in. Once again, they were a bit of a bear, especially on the driver's side, just because there's so much extra stuff in the way, but it wasn't that bad. Now we're on to the up pipes themselves. I already started this one here, new gasket here. We did actually put some anti-seize on these bolts as well. ARP lube would have been a little bit better. It goes up to 2,000 degrees. This only goes to 1,600, but hopefully this will be enough. Basically, it's just a little bit of insurance. If I ever do have to pull these back apart, hopefully they'll be a little bit easier. These ones weren't bad anyway, but you know, as it gets longer, you know, if they're on for several years, maybe before they get taken off, it might take a little bit more. But anyway, this side is started loose. I'm gonna go up on the top of the truck and put on the other side, and then probably get in the other side up pipe as well, and then tighten everything down. Once again, these are these 12.12 millimeters. Okay, so everything is in finally. This driver's side up pipe was actually a really big bear to get in. Had to kind of finagle it in there. There's not much room in there. You can see it's pretty tight. But this whole side is tightened up. Manifold up pipe's done, as well as the other side. Everything's done. It's a whole lot cleaner, a lot easier to see in this side, but everything's on, everything's tight. I need to get this EGT probe put in. The first thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna get the down pipe back in here. Now the down pipe will go in from the top. Shouldn't be too bad, but at the same time, there's a lot of material to get inside there, so we'll see how it goes. All right guys, we are done. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be done with this. Wasn't overall a terrible job. It's just labor intensive, right? You're just getting into a lot of spots that aren't that easy to get to. But overall, we got a really nice looking manifold. Went ahead and put the EGT probe back in. New up pipes, 2-inch up pipes, down pipes back in. This is a 3-inch MBRP piece to the 5-inch MagnaFlow exhaust there. It's got some, what is that? It's got some WD-40 on it and stuff just from before, but that'll burn off, that'd be fine. Or clean it up a little bit. But I am going to spend a little bit of time here yet. I haven't put the intercooler pipe back on yet, because I'm going to take a little bit of time and clean up this engine bay, or this engine just a little bit here before I do so. And after that, it's just the fenders and the wheels themselves to go back on. But other than that, guys, we are there. So now I have not put on the blankets yet. Once again, I still have these blankets to put on over here. These guys, the reason why I'm doing that is I want to let this truck run a day or two, let these expand and shrink a little bit, and then double check all the bolts one more time, all of the manifold bolts here, just one more time before we put those blankets on. Once the blankets are on, it'll be a little bit hard to actually get in there. So I want to have that all done, and then I'm gonna redo this a little bit. It's got the wire got a little bit twisted up here, so when I take this back out, I will make sure that that gets cleaned up, because my OCD is going crazy. But other than that, guys, that is all we have. We are back together. Already put this side back in, the pipe back in there and everything. It's a little bit dark, but you see the pipes back in there. But the truck is technically ready to run. Put this intercooler pipe back on, and we'll get back on the road. So we'll see if these actually make a difference, but that is where we're at. We're done with the install itself. So once again, at the end of this video, I know I just did a whole video about putting these in, but I just want to implore to you guys just a little bit. Be very, very careful. If you're going to do this and you're not, if you haven't changed out your turbo or you haven't put in a new down pipe and up pipe before, it can be a really big bear. I'm talking like the biggest one ever to get those, well, for LB7 guys anyway, and even for the LOY guys, LBZ guys and up, for getting the up pipe bolts off. But those bolts in the back of the turbo are extremely tight. They've been heat cycled thousands of times, and they are really hard to get out. When I swapped out this turbo, I think I broke 2 of them off, And if I wasn't swapping out the turbo, that would have been a bit of a problem. You know, if I was just doing the downpipe and the up pipes at the time, it would have been a real problem to get those back out. But as this was out a year ago, these went really, really nicely. I also put anti-seize on them to make sure that they are okay, as far as if I ever actually do want to get them back out again. But anyways, guys, just want to thank you again for watching. It is almost the end of the year, so Happy New Year. I hope you all get a great start to your new year and a great finish to this one as well. I'm not sure what all we're going to do to the truck yet this winter. Will hopefully be quite a bit, but we'll see. So keep following, guys. If you haven't already, please like the video, please subscribe, and thanks for going along with me. Have a good one.